Amayantu Story, it's Sunday, the 19th of December, 2021. This is OromiaPlus reporting on the latest from Oromia this week. First, Element with the headlines.
Karrayyu Oromo, a student activist group based in Oromia, has called for statewide protests against the regime of Abiy Ahmed. Karrayyu, an Ethiopian security official, died during operations against the Oromo Liberation Army in East Shawa. The Ethiopian government refused to cooperate with the United Nations after the United Nations Human Rights Council voted to launch an international investigation into human rights abuses in Tigray. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch released separate reports detailing massacres and ethnic cleansing by Amhara forces into western Tigray. 25 of the Karrayyu Oromo leaders detained by Ethiopian authorities have been found in a prison in Mojo. Aisha Mohammed Gadaa, a respected veteran of the Oromo struggle, passed away on December 18, 2021. And for our main story tonight, extrajudicial killings in Oromia by Ethiopian authorities continue.
On December 18th, 4 young men in police custody in Ikamte were murdered by Oromia state forces. A day later, a university student in Gluso, West Wolaga, was shot and killed by authorities as he was walking home. Extrajudicial killings such as these have been a worrisome trend in Oromia over the last 3 years. Elamo Bisa with more.
On September 21st, the Oromia support group listed 1,612 victims of extrajudicial killings by Ethiopian authorities. Among them, 17-year-old Margad Masu, who was shot and killed in his parents' home by Ethiopian forces in Gimbi while picking mangoes from a tree. The report states that the soldiers then cut off his hands and feet while forcing his family to watch. In another case reported by the BBC, a 32-year-old man named Ariti Shanunde was shot and killed at a public meeting called for by local administration because his phone rang. Another case reported by the BBC was that of a teacher in Ambo called Kitala Gudeta, whose body was found next to a river after he was taken from his home by a dozen police officers. Amete Gerardo, father of a famous Roman comedian Jaco Monte, was pulled out of prison and murdered by Oromia state forces in Gebre Garacha in November. While these killings have been ongoing for several years, there has been very little coverage by both local and international media. One case that did create an uproar was that of Wandeme Gumachu. 17-year-old Wandeme was a high school student and a deacon at a local Orthodox church. On May 11th, 2021, he was arrested by Ethiopian authorities in Dambidolo and severely beaten. The authorities then tied a handgun around his neck and tied him to a rail in the town center. In footage recorded by government soldiers and then posted on a Facebook page run by the government, you can see a bloody Wandume minutes before the soldiers shot and killed him. Later, several members of his family were arrested, including his mentally ill 7-year-old sister. The Ethiopian authorities have been able to commit these killings with very few calls for accountability. The latest in this trend occurred on Friday, December 17th, where 4 young men were arrested in Ikamte and then later found dead in a nearby forest. While the names and faces of these victims are regularly posted on social media, they should continue to elicit little response from the international community. Elomo Baisa, OromiaPlus.
An Oromia-based student activist group known as Karrayyu Oromo, or Oromo Youth for Freedom, have called for statewide protests and strikes against what they call the imperialist practices of the Abiy regime. In a press release, the group stated that the Oromo people face an existential crisis and called for united efforts to oppose the federal government's agenda. Karrayyu, the security chief of Liban Chokala district, was killed while leading operations against the Oromo Liberation Army in East Shawa. According to state media, Karrayyu was killed along with 4 soldiers in a place called Gilei. Earlier this week, the OLA announced it had taken action on a government military patrol in the same place, killing 7 and capturing weaponry. East Showa has seen an increase in OLA activity in the last month, with government forces facing several attacks in Fintale district. The United Nations Human Rights Council voted to launch an independent human rights probe into atrocities in Tigray. This comes after an earlier controversial UN investigation done in collaboration with the government-created Ethiopian Human Rights Commission faced heavy criticism for alleged distortion. The Ethiopian government responded with a statement pledging not to cooperate with any independent investigation. Both Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch released separate reports detailing ethnic cleansing of Tigrayans by Amhara forces in western Tigray. According to reports, over 1.2 million Tigrayans were forced out of western Tigray, with those remaining facing executions and torture in makeshift concentration camps. The Abba Gadaa Union announced that 25 missing members of the Karrayyu Oromo traditional governing system have been found in state custody in Mojo. These 25 were part of the 41 that were arrested by Ethiopian authorities during a traditional prayer ceremony. Of the 41 initially arrested, 14 were executed in an area called Meti, while 2 managed to escape. The rest were considered missing until the Abba Gadaa Union statement. Of the 15 found imprisoned in Mojo, 1 died during the torture at the hand of security forces. The Ethiopian government had earlier released a statement accusing the Oromo Liberation Army of having committed the killing despite eyewitnesses' account to the contrary. Aisha Mohammed Gadaa, an Oromo revolutionary who fought against Emperor Haile Selassie's rule in the 1920s and 30s, passed away on Friday at the age of 107. Aisha was 14 years old when she joined her father, famed revolutionary Mohammed Gadaa, in an armed rebellion against the imperial regime. This event preceded and inspired Wako Gutu's campaign in Bale in the 1960s. Aisha survived by her 2 daughters. And this is the news for this week. Join us again next Sunday. I am Ayanti Sori, and this is OromiaPlus.